So I know that we talk about icons all the time,
Oh
talk
yeah,
about music
Amir.
icons. Yeah. So who, like, obviously when we talk about pop culture, like, any artists that come to mind when you think, okay, cool, they've definitely impacted pop culture in a very significant way where it impacts everything that we see right now?
100%. Someone I think of as huge is Madonna.
Mm-hmm.
Unmissable. How could you look past her?
Mm-hmm.
She changed the course of pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think about MTV back in the day, and then Madonna did that Like a Virgin song, and she was literally like gyrating around, like going around stage and like seductively dancing or whatever, and going on the floor and like being all seductive and stuff. I mean, I think her manager said if you ever do that, your career is going to be over. But instead, it did the opposite. It propelled and skyrocketed her career.
Yeah.
And took it to a stratospheric level. Like she just became a star from after that. If you think about things like she's done with, and she's talked about a lot of issues like Papa Don't Preach, about abortion. She's talked about in Like a Prayer, she's talked about the idea of, a black man getting blamed for the white man's problems, and being innocent as well. I just feel like she pushed a lot of ideas, or even when she went to Kabbalah, she was bringing it to music. I mean, how many people were aware of Kabbalah back then? It's like a mystic practice and stuff. But, she found a way to integrate it into pop culture, bringing it in front of the eyes, whereas before people wouldn't have been aware about it. Or if you think about the Beatles and bringing it over like meditation and this like hippie sort of lifestyle that I'm sure people did, but they really propelled it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, even a sex book. Remember, like, how many artists did you see have sex book? Or doing nude photos at that time. I mean, and she says it quite. She said it in her Woman of the Year speech, and she was like, "Oh, when I took the photos and it came out, a lot of people expected me to be ashamed about it, but I wasn't, which surprised them." She goes, "I actually look quite bored." Because I was, but I needed to make money and I did what I had to do. And that's part of survival, She did what she had to do with the nude photos. But later on, when she gave us textbook, it's like she talked about how the industry was very like, it was quite man orientated. I'm not sure what the right phrase is, but quite male dominated, basically, patriarchal in a way. And yeah, and she was like, I was always seen as a threat. So as long, she goes, you were allowed to be, made to look slutty and made to look pretty and made to be objectified for everyone else, but don't own your own sexiness. Don't own your own sluttiness. Don't make it your own. Let it be an object for other people to make themselves. So you're just an object for a man's desire, or woman's desire too, whatever it is. But yeah, and I feel like she always challenged that. Like the issues she had with the Pope during the Like a Prayer, do you remember? The Vatican, and like
Yeah.
then like talking about her sex dreams, which is just unheard of at that time for women to just openly talk about sex. And then you think back to the suffragettes movement, and that how sex was something that women were not even allowed to enjoy. Like it was something to be the lowest part of them, that they weren't even allowed to like enjoy that intimacy between the spouse or a partner, for example. And I remember when I was in my second year of university, I did women writers and looked at women and how they basically like protested in the suffragettes movement and everything like that, and seeing women never having the rights to vote until like way after. And even then, when they got the vote, it was only up to women at the age of 30, I think it was, or 35, I can't remember. And then afterwards, after a long time of protest, I think it was in the 1920s, mid to late 1920s, where women were allowed to vote at the same age of man, which is 21. But before that, they weren't. You think about women not being able to own their own bodies. People wanting to have control of women, saying they can't have abortion or whatever. And then, after the pill's invented, and then this is invented, and we see the change and how through advertisement it got out. And then we see how people start having huge families, they start having a more smaller amount. you know, and we see how that penetrated pop culture. Even looks, styles, aesthetic. Remember, everyone in the 80s, I know my aunt told me she was a huge Madonna fan and she wanted to be Madonna.
Oh, wow.
We see this, like everyone, you know, having the same sort of look and style as her, which now maybe we look back and think, oh, I don't really like that style. But in a way, it's become iconic and it's permeated into pop culture. You know, we talk about, and now we see everyone doing everything in modern day now with like sex or whatever, and we look over it like, oh yeah, that's normal. We expect that from MTV now. But it wasn't always expected. And I would say that all hats go off to Madonna. I'm sure there were other artists along the way, but she really paved she made the avenue for other people. And she got so much crap for it along the way, when she was even said that she was compared to Satan in a headline once. Or that some people said that she took women back because of she objectified herself. You know, and as if you're not supposed to own your own sexuality.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like with Madonna, like when I do like some of her music. Like when I look back in kind of like you know, in her archive, I look back and I'm like, wow, like you can tell that I feel like she went through a lot of stuff, a lot of pain, and then she's put that energy into her art, into her music, into her craft. And then with her, I think being controversial always pushed the boundary.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, completely.
100%.
So we talk about Madonna. How about Michael Jackson?
Oh, Michael Jackson, interesting. Also, a huge pop cultural significance, isn't he?
Yeah.
Obviously, when you watch the Thriller video and how he changed the way like we saw music videos at that time. I mean, now we see it done by everyone. They have longer videos now. It's normative, but we really should always hark back to the people who originally began those concepts and ideas. I mean, I never watched Thriller as a kid. I heard the song. I never watched the video. It wasn't during. That was in the 80s.
Yeah.
We were born in the
90s. Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, have you watched it now, though?
Yeah, I've seen it now.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
No, it looked amazing. I think if I was a child and I watched it, I definitely would be scared.
Oh, yes. You know what? It's funny you say that because I remember when I was younger, but obviously when it used to be played on like MTV and those type of channels, and then obviously they used to like bring it back, and I just remember when I was a child like seeing something and it actually shook me and I'm like, what's this, you know, because it was frightening, especially when you're, you know, it's like when you are a younger child and then you see something like that on TV, especially when you're not exposed to it. It's like, okay, this is different. But as you get older now, you see, like for me now, I have an utter appreciation for it because it's paved the way, you know.
It really has.
You know, it paved the way for the artists today. You know, like Chris Brown and Usher and all these different artists and bands as well. You can see that they've taken inspiration from him and from other artists and from other icons, and they've used it in their own way. And that's what's drives them. And you can see that in their music and in their music as well as in their music videos.
Yeah, I really see that. I mean, remember Telephone when it came out?
Yeah.
And Beyonce and Gaga, that I saw as well.
Yeah.
If you think about things like Lana Del Rey's national anthem.
Yeah, so
and A$AP Rocky, and we had Lana, and we can see like Lana makes a lot of references to the past. Like she talks about the Kennedys, she references Marilyn Monroe, Jacqueline Kennedy, and you know, even Lolita from the story of the book. And we see her mention these sort of things within her work, her music, her art. And we see even in Ride, where she tells that like story about her life, and she gives that lovely little monologue in the beginning, and you're just engrossed. Like you watch it and you're like, maybe it's fake, maybe it's real, but either way, I still feel something when I hear it. You know, you're moved by the story. You know, and the best thing an artist can do is like make you engrossed into the story that they're telling. you know, and I'm always engrossed by what Lana does. So yeah, I mean, we see it now normalized. I think everyone makes a reference to the past in some way. I mean, how many times have we heard songs mentioning James Dean? We talked about this in the Intertextual podcast. And, you know, we see that all of this, again, is a part of pop culture. You know?
Yeah, it is part of pop. Yeah, it is completely right. Yeah. It's like, I kind of see it as it's like a knitted blanket, isn't it?
Really, yeah.
Everything is like connected. Everything is woven within each other. And then it kind of creates this bigger blanket. So it's just, everything is just like woven. Everything is like, you know, throughout the years. And then you look back, you're like, wow, oh my gosh, remember that? Oh my gosh, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like that. Yeah. Let's talk about Lady Gaga, because I know we both love Lady Gaga. She is amazing. We love you, Gaga. We love you. We're your monsters.
We do. We do.
She has just recently released her album for, I think
Chromatica.
it was last week Friday. Absolutely amazing. I know that you haven't listened to it as of yet. Like, you've only heard 2 songs. I've listened to the album.
I am excited to listen to it.
Yeah,
I
have
not had the time. That's what's been going
on. Yeah. Well, obviously, understandable and everything. So I know that obviously because you haven't listened to it, so I'm not going to talk too deep into it. However, because I know that like you've heard "Stupid Love" and "Rain on Me." Just from hearing those 2 tracks, what impression do you get of the album?
Honestly, it gives me a very nostalgic feel when I hear them. That there's something about them that reminds me of the 90s and early 2000s. Like when I heard Stupid Love, first of all, the first thing I thought about was Bowie. I'm not even gonna lie, and we'll touch on Bowie shortly, but yeah, what's his name? I thought of Bowie, the style, the idea of a Ziggy Stardust sort of character. It felt very out of space. It felt very Mars. Is there life on Mars? Kind of question. You know what I mean? So I think that's what I felt. But then beyond that, though, I also felt like a Britney vibe, like from the 90s, which is like, oops, I did it again. You know, that kind of like out there kind of thing. But it also kind of reminded me of the early part of music, like, you know, and I'm not talking about the songs itself, but the visuals of it. It felt very Poker Face type. It felt very Born This Way type. It just gave me that feel. Not saying they were exactly similar, but you know, I got that vibe that they had some sort of like similar feel to it. Yeah. So it felt like a harking back to her earlier work, more to what we're more used to her being like in her when she was quite outlandish and quite, you know, more artsy than she is now. With her outfits and stuff. And
I remember, because I think it was you that you told me that, oh my god, like Gaga's dropping an album soon. Do you remember? A few months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was you told me that. And then and then I think you showed me a visual, and it was off that video of Stupid Love. And I think when we met up, like I think it was last time, I think when I took the pictures and stuff. And then the video came out. I think it was the same day, or might be the day before, or whatever. And then I was like, wow, like what coincidence anyway. Put that aside. When I watched, like when I first saw, even just seeing that picture that you showed me that time, obviously prior, I was like, wow, like this is going in a very different direction. Like, you know, and then when I seen the video, I was like, okay, this is, she seems very, I don't know. I feel like there's a level of peace with her now.
Oh yeah, she went through a very difficult time, which she spoke about in a documentary, 5'2".
Yeah.
And she spoke about the issues, and I just think, you know, she's gone through a lot. I think relationships have been very hard for her. She's probably felt very lonely, because it's a common saying, isn't it? To get to the top is quite lonely.
It is.
You know, so imagine like she's working all the time and she doesn't have time for, you know, the people that she really cares about. That probably can do a lot to you, and not being successful in relationships, and that too, maybe there's sexism or misogyny within that men feel intimidated by her because of the scale of the level. I mean, you know, but you know, the thing is, like, we're super proud of her. Like, honestly, I remember when she began, and I used to watch all her interviews and binge on them. And I remember she was,
I'm sure you still do.
I'm sure I still do at times. I sometimes do revisit. I do like to listen, because everything she used to say used to like really touch me. And she used to talk about how much she wanted to be an actress back then. But then we saw A Star Is Born, and it was way later. And I feel like it was so needed, that she needed to make that change, like drastic change in her work. And it was a good time. And I feel like now that she's kind of was on those mellow kind of vibes because of everything that was going on in her life, you know, where her career was, Art Pop's failure, you know, and then Joanne never hit big, but she still worked really hard on it, and all those factors and all the issues. Like, I think she lost a friend as well.
Oh yes,
it was,
yeah. In a documentary,
it was a lot.
Yeah,
it was really a lot for her, and
she's gone through a lot.
Exactly, she's gone through a hell of a lot, but you know, she's pushing through. And you know, even when we think of like pop culture and mediums and things like that, we know that she used an iPhone when she made that. That wasn't shot on a regular camera. That was shot on an iPhone. That might, obviously, I'm guessing people would know that, but in case you don't know, it was shot on an iPhone. It wasn't shot on a camera. That might change pop culture for the future, though, because you know, we think about now. How many things, like, remember when Gaga was coming out with those like crazy hair colors and things like that? That wasn't very popular back then.
No, it wasn't.
Like, I mean, now it's normative, but back then, like, it was like unheard of. You know, I remember being with my friend ages ago in probably 2009, 10, and I remember that he dyed his hair like bleach blonde. You know, like the way Justin Bieber had it at a phase of his career. It was like that. I remember that everywhere where people just kind of looked at him, and it just wasn't a nice look. But then Bieber does it. It becomes popular. A lot of people do it. You know, I've seen Zayn have it. I mean, I'm not saying Bieber was the start of it. I mean, there could be someone else, but I remember seeing it from him first, personally. And obviously it's excelled into other artists who also followed the same sort of like hair color or whatever it is. And we can see how a normal person doing it has no significance. But someone with power, someone with, you know, that sort of like demographic, who are young artists or whatever, or young teenage artists, or even older, like fans, I mean, not artists, sorry, fans. We can see people like, you know, using it. And now we see it as very normative. We see like a lot of people have different hair colors. But that was really pushing the boundaries back then, because not everyone was going to explore hair colors back then. You know, like I remember when she had like the armpit hair and she dyed it a different color.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember. It does surprise me that she's into her.
Yeah, I just thought it was intriguing. I've always found that every item of clothes that she wore has significance to something. You know, I don't think she wears anything on her body for the sake of just wearing it. Personally, I've never thought that about her. But nonetheless, I've been very engrossed. So obviously, we don't know, touching on the iPhone thing, like obviously this could change the way music videos are shot in the future. Maybe she's at a trend, and in the future, this is where it's going to be. I mean, do you remember when like clothing was just like, if you look back at 2008 clothing beforehand, and then you look at when Gaga came, and all of a sudden, clothing was like next level mad. Do you remember how much time she just changed when everyone came dressed like her? Was it 2010 VMAs or 2011 VMAs, I think? Or was it AMAs? I can't remember. And everyone came dressed like her. I remember Nicki Minaj looked like she was wearing the most outlandish clothes. And what did Gaga do? She dressed like a man and walked in. You know? And she just changed, flipped it. Like people thinking that they know what she's going to wear. And they thought they could dress weird and strange as well. But she was like, I'm smart enough like that. I'm not even going to dress up as you lot, because I know what you lot are going to dress up as. I'm going to dress as something you wouldn't expect. I'm going to dress up as a dude and come in, you know? And, you know, you just know that even normalizing that or anything like that, she speaks so frankly about, you know, sexuality. And now we do see a lot of people opening up about the sexuality. I mean, I think there's also like bisexual, she's come out as bisexual ages ago. And people are saying that she just uses it for marketing. And she's claimed numerous times that she is part of the LGBT community. She stands up for them. She's huge. And remember she did that protest and she fought for rights, and when Obama was president ages ago, she did that rally. She's always stood up for the people. She even when she won her first award in the VMAs 2009, and she said, "This is for God and the gays." right? I don't know if you remember, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was huge. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's always been a part of it, and I feel like she speaks about it and gives it a platform. And
Mm-hmm.
numerous artists have in the past, but I really feel like she has really propelled it forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like people like her should. She said it herself. She said, "You won't appreciate me now. You'll appreciate me in 30 years or
Mm-hmm.
30 years time or something."
Mm-hmm.
And it's good that she's aware about it, because she knows right now no one's going to see her doing anything significant. It's going to be time where people look back and see, look what she changed.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I saw fashion in a completely different way after she came.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like no artist dressed just regular or whatever it was. You know, I started seeing people dressing up in, like, remember when Kesha came in dressed from in a bin bag kind of thing?
Yeah, I do.
Something like that. You know, I mean, I feel like she changed everything. And
Yeah,
remember when everyone was like talking about Gaga? That's all everyone spoke about back then was Gaga, Gaga this, Gaga that. That's all anyone could speak about. I'll never forget those times.
Yeah. No, Gaga is like, when I think of Gaga, and she's been on a journey, and it shows through her music, and it shows through her music videos, and just her art and her craft, point blank period.
Yeah.
She's built up a very significant catalogue.
Yes.
And you can see that even just even if you don't care about Gaga, you have to just watch her evolution.
And acknowledge what she's done.
Yeah, and look at her evolution, especially just through her music videos alone.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, she, as you said, like, she changed the game. She
really changed the game.
You know, and through things that she's been through, you know, through different interviews and stuff, when she's discussed set things, you can see that she is, you know, she's evolving and still evolved and evolving as a woman, and she's still trying to find peace with herself, and that reflects in her music.
Oh, 100%. And you know, when she started, she said she wanted to represent the people who feel just like she did, which was like a freak. You know, and I think when I first saw her, I really resonated with her. But do you remember how we were so crazy about her when she first came out, and no one else was? Like, people just looked over her. I'm sure people listened to her, but no one would acknowledge that they listened to her, because it wasn't cool to listen to her, was it?
No, it wasn't.
You know, for people like us, like, she meant so much, because she was like one of us. She was like, you know, a friend. She was like the freak, just like we were the freaks. You know, we were the people who stood out. You know, and for the wrong reasons. But I think that's
no, we're not no freaks, man. Get that?
No, but like, I mean, like,
it's
normalizing.
But
freaks to those people who see us as freaks. And make us feel like we're freaks, because we're not like them. You know? But just to make that clear.
It's funny, because now that you say that, it's like you see that it's not you, it's them.
Oh, 100%.
They're just projecting that feeling and that energy onto you to make you feel in a certain way, and that obviously links back to the Black experience as well. So, it all connects. Honestly, honestly, that makes sense. That completely makes sense. Let's touch on Bowie, because I know obviously she's a, you know, she links quite significant to Madonna and to Gaga, and even MJ as well, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I think I remember Madonna said that she snuck out when she was younger, because she had to go to a Bowie concert, and she got a ride on someone on the road and hitchhiked her way to that concert. She was like, no matter what, I'm gonna go to Bowie's concert. And she spoke in a Woman of the Year speech, and she said how Bowie always made it feel like there were no rules. And she was like, there are no rules if you're a boy. But if you're a girl, you should know how to play the game. That's a different discussion. But when I look at Bowie, obviously, you know, when he came out, I think he first came out as gay, and later on came out as bi. Then later on claimed he was straight all along, and saying that was the worst thing of his career. But in a way, it really solidified him as an icon for the gay community. You know, especially what he was pushing back then. I mean, in the 70s, I mean, they had just legalized it. was it in, I don't remember what year it was, but when they legalized being gay in this country, Bowie came out just around then, which was huge. Like, we didn't see icons coming out back then, you know? Like, I think people, like, now overlook what people had to fight or go through, what we are normalized to now. Now, if anyone comes out gay, it becomes a story on, like, on TV, or like, people talk about it on, like, magazines or whatever it is, and then that's it. It's forgotten. People move past it. But back then, for someone to come out with that, you know, with that level, was insane. You know, no one used to say those kind of things. Like, it was kind of hidden, especially when it was illegal for so long and then it just became legal. You know, that's huge. And when you think about Bowie and the alter egos of the Ziggy Stardust character, is there life on Mars, you know, Space Oddity and all those things, and we think about it all. It's still very relevant to that time, because that was when they were on the Mars mission. I mean, not the Mars mission, sorry, the moon mission to go to the moon. In 69, Armstrong, wasn't it?
Apollo.
So yeah. And, you know, it really, you know, accelerated him in front of the people, because to the demographic anyways, because it was very relevant. It was extremely relevant. I mean, they were off into the moon. We were just about to see the heights of what people can do, what man can do is